Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, it is I am the one and only, Ray the Flying Squirrel here. And I'm Mighty the Armadillo here, welcome you all back for the likes of the Maxi Toys videos once again. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more of Let's Play of Super Mario Advance 4, Super Mario Bros. 3 for the Game Boy Advance. So, last time we've basically managed able to get started the adventure for the third time, except now we play in the Game Boy Advance version, if you already noticed from the title of the game already. In addition to that, we also did manage able to start things off with World 1 and World 2, similar to the forms of how it does it on the NES version and the Super Nintendo version. We basically tackled both of those worlds in one video, as you can definitely already notice, ever since on Wednesday the 1st of November. So today, for this video is about the fact that we're about to be continue things on and move on to World 3, which is of course Seaside to be more specifically. And I believe it might be a possibility that we might also decide able to hit on to World 4 as well, because relatively speaking we might be able to do the exactly same formation as the forms of how it does it on the Super Nintendo version on the Super Mario All-Stars compilation. So either way though, so of course it will be Mighty's turn to start off with, so in some cases though, yeah, as you can tell that we definitely need to go ahead and say this right now, that we need a lot of lives, because especially noticeable during that time where, since we now moved on to World 3, this is worth the add about the fact that we've only on about that since Enduring Forms have been, well, not only for about a year ago on the NES version, but also on the Super Nintendo version as well during the beginning portion of 2023, that obviously I feel like World 3 is definitely a bit harder than the forms of how it does in World 4. I mean, relatively speaking though, that Mighty is actually doing quite well for starters for the likes of in World 3, just because the Fire Flower power-up will help us out, especially noticeable if you're trying to deal with the forms of those annoying bloopers, if you can tell. And conveniently enough, I'm actually be going ahead and take a look at the card flipping game again. So let's see what rewards I might as well able to consider getting. So, oh, thank you, I got my one up. Thank you. So of course it's been about 2 days ago since we've last played this game for sure, because obviously about the fact that we've been busy playing a lot of things lately. So either way though, oh well, no big deal, because obviously about the fact that it's nice able to go back to this game again, as we already said this before, since on Wednesday potentially. So either way though, so now let's go ahead and move on to level 2 right here in World 3. Although I would have liked able to actually just go ahead and try to do with this nifty trick by simply able to actually fly up with the P meter, and then obviously I will ignore the majority of the stage. But regardless of everything else though, I don't necessarily need to, because obviously I'm pretty much going to be comfortable with this, especially I think, although despite it's been about, oh jeez, that was close. Yeah, because you're almost gonna bypass the pipe, and on top of that you're almost gonna die by the forms of those whole pack of cheeps, if you couldn't tell. Yeah, especially noticeable about the fact that I've almost gonna throw myself with it. So either way, a few things we want to explain for this points today, and that is that today's date, of course, there is the 3rd of November today, in this case in 2023 today. I believe, relatively speaking, it's about the fact that until tomorrow anyway, it we're expecting to able to come across into ourselves the fireworks display during tomorrow night. So as a result, me and Mighty are looking forward to the fireworks display, so as a result of that kind of stuff though, because what's even strange is that during the forms of it last year, it's unfortunately cancelled due to that point about the fact that, did you somehow skip the 3rd level? Oh, I see what you're trying to do right there, Mighty. You just somehow managed to get into the 1st tower level before I decide to tackle through the most dangerous level in the game, which involves around the Cheap Chomp. So, yeah, because I couldn't help it for myself about the fact I just want to get this world completed as much as fast as humanly possible. So, yeah, you pretty much already know about this level, do you? Because we already experienced the previous 2 versions already, so it's always the 6th door, and that way, that will actually lead you to some progressioning, because unlike any other doors, it can sometimes lead you to power-ups, or potentially speaking, nothing else. So, either way, that pretty much takes care of the 1st tower level in the forms of World 3. So yeah, we'll save the game in the process here. So either way though, yeah, relatively speaking though, about the fact that it's kind of strange about the fact that during the last year it was cancelled due to the forms of, let's just say, there's a lot of rain during the forms within the last year or so, because obviously about the fact that the entire, some parts of the town has been flooded, was nowhere near as extremely flooded, compared to the forms of how it does it back in the 2000, at least specifically in the UK country, as far as I've heard certain articles about it, that basically is about the fact that, I believe there's a town called Uckfield, that basically is about the fact that there's a lot of flood going on, so, yeah, that's as far as I could usually try to describe about any of those specific stuff though, I will imagine so. But either way, I basically complete this level no problem, thanks to the forms of my awesome raccoon power-up, Huzzah! So, anyway, so, you probably already know the drill is about the fact that during in World 3 and onwards, though, they are obviously most able to start adding some more, tower levels, if you couldn't tell, so either way, though, but again, we've already experienced this before, so either way, there's nothing right to home about when it comes to mentioning about that stuff, though, so, and something tells me you, Mighty, got yourself a Starman, so that'll be useful, wouldn't it? Well, potentially speaking, if there are some tricky levels here and there, so yeah, especially noticeable whenever we get to the point until the next couple of levels up ahead, that basically though is about the fact that we'll come across into certain enemies that we might come across into, so. But either way, let's talk about the forms of some topics for this point today, and that is that until specifically, like, around that time until next week, that the North American release of the Mario Party The Top 100 for the Nintendo 3DS were expected to become 6 years old and join at some point in next week in North America. So yeah, time flies, you know, especially concerning with all that. Well, despite the fact that it's kind of hard to get back into the top 100 these days, because, you know, we still got ourselves the superior Mario Party Superstars on the compilation as far as, you know, Mario Party compilation games as far as I'm concerned, at least in terms of the forms of remakes, some of those boards and mini games, and you name the rest of it. So either way, oh jeez, that was close. I was gonna get hit by the forms of that particular Lakitu right there, but of course, luckily for me, that was the luckiest dodge I've ever encountered, or potentially speaking, the luckiest stomp I did manage to pull this off, so that should be all good in my part. Anyway, so now it's my turn to, well, first of all, let me quickly go ahead and pop over to the Toad House quickly, because thanks to those bridges that I can able to actually access to, well, get myself a nice item freebie, which is of course a fire flower, so that way I can use that later on, so, and I would also, I was able to go ahead and use this hammer to break this rock, so that way I can able to actually go ahead and actually access to not only one, but 3 more Toad Houses. Yep, concerning you're the most luckiest armadillo that you've ever gonna be conceived, especially concerning with all that particular point that, well, something tells me about the fact that I'm guessing that, my team might able to actually get his vengeance back after the events of, both NES version and the Super Nintendo version for that regard. At least if I was, at least as far as I can usually say about that, so. Oh, no luck for my part. Although, to be fair, you've almost had 10 1-ups at this point, so hopefully you're as well able to guaranteed able to catch up with me for able to actually just try to able to obtain certain 1-ups as far as this is concerned. Okay, come on. This is my luck. Oh, come on! Yeah, timing is way off at the end anyway. Oh, blast. Anyway, I'm also able to go after that particular, Toad House instead, all the way to over there, so. Yep, so just to ensure you get another power-up, and something tells me you've got yourselves a Super Leaf, for the sake of time, so. Yeah, I apologize for my commentary is a bit slightly iffy at this point, because it's especially noticeable about the fact that, well, I just cannot help it for myself about the fact that we are pretty excited for the likes of not only just to continue playing this game for the entire Let's Play of the game itself, but also about the fact that we are getting very close to the point that we've almost at the very end of 2023 before we move on to 2024, which I think we'll later discuss that. And during at some point, whenever we get to the continuous progressioning for the Super Mario Advance 4, Super Mario Bros. 3 game itself. I mean, relatively speaking though, everything else will be pretty much expected at that point, so... But I digress. So, yeah, it looks like you're doing pretty well for most of the time, for the sake of the forms of this particular stage, so... And good thing for me, I've got myself my glorious Starman card. Or a Starman panel, as what it's called. Yeah, because we still need to get used to with that particular name change, like, to card to, like, panel and stuff like that, as you can probably tell. Anyway, so now it's my turn to take on those Hammer Bros right here, to get myself another hammer. Interesting. Now I think I'm also able to try my best to save it up for later, so... But either way though, that'll be a discussion at a later time, so either way though, so it looks like it's now your turn to take on level 6. And this is the honor scoring level, isn't it? Yep, I thought so. Yeah, especially because concerning with all that particular honor scoring levels might attempt to bother us at points, especially because we now have to deal with the screen crunch and stuff like that. I mean, sure, it might take a bit of some time to get used to with the screen crunch resolution and such, and unfortunately though, you come across into a death. Oh, shoot. Anyway, yeah, I think it's now my turn to do this part, so just in case I can able to complete the level for us, so I don't think I can probably able to equip any of my, power-ups from now on, so I think I might as well be okay just without equipping anything at the moment, so... Oh boy, this is going to be quite a nerve-wracking experience for me, so I'll might as well try my best able to just go for this entire stage as normal, so... At least I can able to grab some more coins from that particular Koopa shell I just tossed. Yeah, I was gonna have to focus right here because I just want able to make sure I just want to get this level finished before we move on to the next. So, because you know with the forms of certain platformer stuff and all that stuff nowadays is that it requires not only concentration, but it's also no! Oh, come on! I can't believe I just slipped through that particular point right there. Well, I guess that was our first death of the entire playthrough so far, especially that we both died on the same level. Like, usually because of this particular level right there, because again, if you dare fall off, you have to restart the entire level all over again, which is not that fun. Especially because, again, they do not contain any checkpoints at all, so you have to do it in one run. So, like, we've already on about that ever since on the NES version and the Super Nintendo version, basically. So, yeah, we just don't feel like talking about that ever again, so... But there is something we could possibly able to discuss upon, and that is that, well, there's quite a lot of anniversaries coming up, for the sake of the forms of not only for this month, but also during the forms of in, well, did I say this month? But also with the forms of next month as well, which appears to be on December. But I think we should probably get started with the forms of this month first. Later on, supposedly enough, and during at some point on the 7th of November, it'll be the 15th anniversary of the release of Madagascar Escape to Africa, which as a result of that kind of stuff though, despite the name is a bit dumb, but I will admit though right away, I still really enjoy the film as it is, even looking back on 15 years ago, since when the film first came out, and during the films have been, well, it did obviously first released in, America, of course, whilst compared to the UK version, it wasn't until when it gets to the point until we get the film, until December the 5th of 2008. So, relatively speaking though, everything else will be pretty much expected during that specific time. So, either way though, now it's my turn to do the next level, because the reason why I'm going to be equipping not only my Fire Flower with me after that particular death, but also with the forms of the Starman, because this level features Spike. Yeah, just Spike as the actual enemy character as far as this is concerned. And of course, they'll continue that tradition in the later games to come, with, you know, reintroduce the forms of Spike as a character in the Mario universe. They're able to bring him as a You know what I mean, a playable character from the likes of in Mario Party 10, alongside with Mario Tennis Aces, and you probably named the rest of it though, so either way. Oh, okay, whatever. I was able to take it, and good thing I got myself my Starman panel. Hooray for me! I can finally get myself some even more extra lives. So, I think I've almost at the 21-up mark. So, kudos to my awesome talents, or to be more specifically, awesome stunts I did manage to pull this off. So, anyway, now it's my turn to do the second tower level, so yeah, I guess that probably explains it how. And, something tells me that you, Ray, are about to be focusing on the Cheap Chomp level again. Oh, jeez, I honestly did not expect that. But I'm sure I might as well get used to it though, because again, we've already experienced that particular level before, twice. Or generally speaking, that's, well, you guys should already know. Anyway, in terms of something else for this matter though, is that one of those games in particular will eventually become, let's just say 20 years old this month, and that's what appears to be Mario Kart Double Dash for the Nintendo GameCube. And as a result, that particular game is going to be 20 years old, and during at some point on the 7th of November, the same day as in the forms of, you know, Madagascar Escape to Africa's release. So, yeah, pretty cool to be able to actually celebrate those two things combined with their different age. And also, as far as I've noticed something, is that, well, I don't know about you, but I'm pretty sure that there's a game called Mortal Kombat 2 for the likes of the arcade machine, that basically that particular game will eventually become 30 this year. So either way though, man, time flies. Yeah, especially concerning with all that. Well, despite the fact that we've never actually played any of the Mortal Kombat games, well, besides 1 or 2 or 3 for that matter, which are Mortal Kombat 9 on the Xbox 360, as far as what Sonic and Shadow did told us about something, and also we did manage able to experience the PlayStation Vita version of the game, but ultimately speaking though, that we just simply give up on those games due to the fact that we're not very great when it comes to 2D fighters aside from Super Smash Bros. So yeah, because I think to us though, Super Smash Bros. Is the only ones we're pretty much good at. Well, aside from Street Fighter and stuff like that for that nature, so oh boy, I'm gonna go back to this level again, or generally speaking, I'm also head back to this level, so yeah, wish me luck I guess, especially because, well, again, if I get eaten by that cheap jump, it's all gone for me. Well, to be more specifically, of one of those 1-ups in particular as far as this is concerned. But anyway, and then as far as whenever I did manage to look upon something, is that, gee, no wonder why about the fact that it's a good thing we did somehow manage able to celebrate the 30th anniversary of Mortal Kombat 2 for the arcade machine, because that was during that time where basically that particular game sold a lot of ports, including by the forms of the Sega Game Gear / Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo Entertainment System, alongside with the Game Boy, and even especially noticeable with 32X, despite the fact that relatively speaking the 32X is still, it's pretty disgustingly expensive to obtain these days now, especially because, gee, no wonder why, oh, this background detail looks a lot differently this time around, especially because now we're able to actually have ourselves waterfalls in the background, so that can mean for possibilities of likely for visual changes or something. Well, mind you, it's been 2 days since we've last played this game for sure, so either way, so yeah, that's as far as I can usually think about it, so alright, now I've got my 10 1-ups back, so or technically speaking, I'm now back on 10 1-ups, so that should be all good in my part, so yeah, anyway, and they also got Amiga version of the game, as well as the Sega Master System, which is the European exclusive, and on top of that, there was also MS-DOS, which is essentially like a computers or something, as well as the Sega Saturn, by the part of the forms of, well, I haven't exactly looked upon that much on the Sega Saturn version of Mortal Kombat 2, well, that's just because about the fact that, well, again, we're still busy playing for the likes of any other, like, games recently, so either way. Oh, and on top of that, with the forms of the PlayStation, which, conveniently enough, PlayStation version of Mortal Kombat 2 only saw the Japanese release of the game, strangely, which I know for a fact that's kind of like the similar situation as the forms of one of those Mega Man games to be only exclusive for Japan's case for, let's just say, one of those interactive games or something like that. So as a result for that kind of stuff though, that's all I can really think about it, so... Anyway, so, yeah, I just somehow managed to become a frog suit Mario, so I can potentially try to able to awkwardly hop over to the goal itself, and somehow I've only got just a 1-up again, so... Yeah, because the phones that particular... You know, that particular mushroom panel that you've got, since during the phones that ultra-scrolling level you did, so... So on the subject for this matter though, I apologize for that particular belginess at the moment guys, because either way, well, looks like we have arrived at the Japan Island, or to be more specifically, the island representing the forms of the Japan, shape. So, at least as far as I can usually say about that, I guess, so... Anyway, now it's my turn to do the forms of that particular third airship fortress level. So, and hopefully we're able to take down, I would say Wendy Cooper is up next. So, or Wendy-O Cooper as far as what I was trying to meant to say for this point. So, which, you know, that was the boss that does manage to feature the most annoying aspect of the fight, which is of course the actual ring projectiles that you definitely need to avoid at all costs. And on top of all that stuff though, it's just a way of how the fact that the way she moves and some stuff like that. And I've almost got to get crushed, because again, with the screen crunch, that is so easy to able to not see where you're going. Sometimes anyway, so either way. But still, we might take a while, it does take a while to get used to with all that, you know, the screen crunch, resolution and stuff like that, because, you know, we're still used to with the console versions a lot, with, you know, the NES version and the Super Nintendo version a lot, but that's saying something, so... Oh no, it's also about the fact that I honestly forgot to mention that the Mortal Kombat 2 game also receives the forms of the PlayStation 3 version as far as I'm aware, but relatively speaking though, I think that's as far as I can think about it. Oh, and speaking of which though, it's about the fact that, you know, with these multitude of versions of Mortal Kombat 1, usually from the likes of the Sega Genesis / Mega Drive, and as well as from that, the Super Nintendo version, the Game Gear version, I think some toy sales I've already mentioned about that. But, relatively speaking though, in regards to the forms of everything else though, yeah, that's just pretty much as far as I can think about when it comes to look back on the forms of Mortal Kombat 2. At least because, you know, it's now been 3 decades old since that particular game first came out in the arcade machine. So yeah, pretty substantial and top-notch at the same time when it comes to look back on the forms of the most popular 2D fighting games as far as this is concerned. So either way though, so it looks like I did somehow receive a music box, so that way it'll just, you know, put any other enemies to sleep during the world map. So World 3 is completed within likely or so 23 minutes tops. So relatively speaking though, we can definitely guarantee we can able to finish the next world, which is of course Giant Land, as far as the next world we're going to be hop into right now. So either way, let me go ahead and use my glorious hammer to get myself one of those items in the actual toad houses and stuff. And that way I got myself my awesome Tanuki suit. So pretty cool and awesome in my part, and also I just realized is that certain enemies have got some updated sprites now. Because of this though, that we're now going to be doing with the forms of Sledge Bros, if you couldn't tell. So, because obviously unlike the NES version and the Super Nintendo version of, you know, with the forms of certain enemies walk around in the world map in Giant Land, that basically is like a recolored variation of the forms of the Hammer Bro, you know, as the actual sprite. Whilst in the forms of this version this time around though, it's not been updated into Sledge Bro sprites, instead of the forms that, you know, the recolored version of that particular Hammer Bro sprite. So that should be all cool, all things considered. Yeah, especially because you know how Sledge Bros are actually a little bit more bigger and wider, or generally speaking a bit bigger or fatter, compared to the forms of how it does it for the regular Hammer Bros as far as this is concerned. Anyway, so now it's my turn. I pretty much need to guarantee to able to get rid of the frog suit somehow, but either way though, I'm trying to figure out something for the sake of time, so... Anyway, so there's also another thing worth noting for is about the fact that, well, honestly, I think that's as far as we can able to discuss upon, in terms of forms of certain anniversary stuff as far as this is mentioning. Although apart from the fact that for one thing in mind, and during at some point until next month, that the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate will eventually become 5 years old, which I'm sure enough that we'll let some toys else will also mention more about it during that time period, especially because, well, you know, we're getting very close towards the end of 2023, as we've already established that earlier, so... And that was actually quite a close call for you, Mighty, because you've almost got to get swooped up by the forms of those, you know, cheap that like to surprise you, but I'm very surprised that you did somehow manage to avoid the rest of them, so kudos to you, bro. Yeah, thank you for that. So anyways, I think I might as well go after that another item power-up I do need, so in some cases I'll go myself my Super Leaf, so that should be all good in my part. And hopefully I'm also able to guarantee to get myself my last Starman panel, so that way I can able to boost up my 1-ups alike. So either way though, yeah, because I will admit though right away, I still really enjoy Giant Land as it is, because obviously this place is gonna be, you know, pretty huge and all that stuff, like filled to the brim with large enemies and all that stuff, and unfortunately I come across into another death because of that particular unexpected moonlight jump and all that stuff. I mean, still, it's pretty easy to overshoot stuff if you're running too fast. I mean, still, it's not a consistent problem, but I just want to mention about this anyway, so... And it looks like for you got yourselves another cloud item, so that way you can potentially try to skip one of those levels, aren't you? Well, true, especially because I really want to get that Toad House down there, or if depending if my skills are actually doing pretty swell, then I can probably no need to worry about that particular stuff in my part, so... Yeah, you probably get the idea for that, so... Alright, let's try this part again, and make sure I don't want to slip up, because obviously that will be... Oh, I honestly forgot about the defaults of that. A bit of a scrolling here and there, when it comes to this particular resolution and like. I mean, sure, it just feels a bit weird at points. I mean, sure, it might take some bit of time to, you know, try and get used to with this. And of course, we have to able to make our ginormous leaps of faith for certain platforms, at least in my perspective anyway, so... There goes my power-up. But, yeah, for the most part though, everything else will be pretty much expected with the, some discussions we'd like to able to point things out. Although, we would have liked to able to mention something else a bit more, aside from that particular anniversary stuff we've already on about, and geez, you've got even more extra lives, Ray. Yep, because I am now a dominant to able to realize that maybe potentially it might be the possibility that I'm also able to dominate the entire Super Mario Bros. 3 for the 3rd time with the 3rd version. Well, I don't know about you, but we shall see what happens during the later worlds to come. Oh yes, because of World 5, 6, 7, and 8. So, oh, including with the forms of World E as well, which, then again, we'll point out more discussions on the forms of World E during the later Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, essentially. So, yeah, that might be a discussion at a later day. Well, you did certainly learn that strategy, because obviously they act out pretty similar to Boo's, aren't they? Because of that look-away syndrome, so... Yeah, because I must have thought so anyway, so... I still have no idea what's in that pipe is there for. Well, I'm guessing it might be something a bit more of a secrecy. But either way, now it's time for you to take on Boom Boom again, which still it's pathetically easy, especially that we've already taken down like... quadrillion amount of times, at least as far as I've noticed something like this. I apologize for that particular tongue twist in the end, folks, right there, folks, because obviously I just, for whatever reason, I got something irritating in my tongue at the moment, which I think it could be something to do with like the sore bit in my tongue. But either way though, I'm sure I'll be able to make myself a bit better and join at some point on next Monday. Yeah, I was thinking about that, because relatively speaking though, sometimes we come across into a lot of awkward situations with the commentary at the moment. Yeah, exactly. So either way though, at least I did somehow took down one of those Sledge Bros, so that should be all good for me. So, I wonder how many 1-ups you were expected to get this time, although despite the fact that you didn't get anything still. What is up with my stupid luck with that particular slot machine kind of stuff? Well, I don't know about you, because relatively speaking though, again, the timing aspect is a bit strange at points. I mean, sure, that it might actually just have something to do with the timing, which I think I've already addressed that, so... Okay, so something worth noting for as well is that during the events of later on this month, specifically on the 11th of November, which is roughly the exact same day as the Remembrance Day, until specifically the usual 11th of the 11th month, well, to be more specifically, the 11th day and the 11th month, then obviously that Mario Party 5 will eventually become 20 years old during the events of this month, which, I'm sure enough though, we'll, talk more details about that, well, presumably entering later on throughout the month. So, but either way though, we shall see what happens in due time, so... Anyway, so let's see. I was so close, because I just almost... Oh, there we go. Now I've got myself my freebie mushroom for the start, and even more coins, and that gives me up to 23 lives so far. And a fire flower, which is obviously a cool thing, and so close. So close to able to complete the entire Flip the Cards game syndrome or something. Maybe we might also able to make it happen, and during at some point once we get to the 5th world, if possible. But, I totally forgot about that giant paratrooper right there. But, oh well, at least I might also get that power-up back. Specifically with that particular mushroom, so that should be all good in my part. So, oh Christ, that was close. I almost assumed that I was almost gonna get hit by that. Ah, dang it! I slipped off again! Oh dear me, what happened to me? Well, I think you've almost like felt a bit panicked for a moment. Actually, kinda thinking about it though, let me go ahead and take down this, Sledge Road before I'm able to tackle through the different levels, so... And I got myself my P-Wing, so that'll be useful for my part. Wow, lucky you. Especially during the later stages, that I think you might as well quite frequently trying to use that in certain situations, you know, with harder levels and such. Well, yeah, true for that regard, especially because if we attempt able to have some bit of struggles at one point, then obviously I might as well do just that, so... Alright, let me go ahead and do this level again, and this time without making a single mistake. Because obviously I'm just getting sick of the forms of getting slipped off at one point. Like, for God's sakes, this is not the lost levels for God's sake. Like, even then, as soon as we're able to actually realize that when I've spoken about the lost levels during that time, then, well, I just don't feel like talking about the lost levels for the time being, because obviously you know how that game was actually pretty frustrated. Well, at least in the Super Nintendo version, it still is not too bad. But, oh god, if we decide to do the NES version, then it'll be a lot of hellish to go through. Well, at least as far as I can usually just save this right from the start, so... I mean, even then, we don't have to necessarily worry about that right now, because obviously we're still playing... You know what I'm saying, Super Mario Bros. 3 again, but on the Game Boy Advance version, so either way though, that's saying something. But, yeah, everything else will be pretty much as far as, you know, discussions alike, then that's what we can say about this for this point, so... But then again though, we would have liked able to mention something else for that matter though, but honestly, that we'll pretty much have to save up some more stuff in later down the road, so... Anyway, now I've finally managed to complete the level at long last, so I don't have to necessarily try to deal with that level again, at least whatever I accidentally slipped off and such. And meanwhile for me, I'm gonna tackle through level 6. Although, I was originally trying to able to use that cloud item to able to skip the level, but either way, I'm pursuing to you, this level will be a total piece of cake, especially because the main gimmick of this particular stage is that it seems very obvious about the fact that in order able to, well, go from one place to the other, as you can tell, with those specific doors, if you enter one of them, it just transports you to a smaller variation of the world, and on top of that, there's also the large variation as well, so... Yeah, there's no point for able to mention about that, because obviously that, we've already experienced this already, so... Okay, so it looks like I'm about to tackle through the second tower level. So either way though, I'm very surprised that we actually did manage to win through those specific worlds like this in the quickest pace this time around. Because I do remember for about a year ago that sometimes the pacing is a bit normal as far as this is concerned. I mean, relatively speaking though, that seems kind of insufficient, so... But, yeah, I think that's as far as we can think about it. Oh yeah, potentially speaking, since we're on World 4 right now, we might bump into the forms of Donkey Kong Jr. again. Well, at least I thought so anyway. Because obviously, just like in the Super Nintendo version, that all of those, you know, King transformations are unchanged for the most part, so... Yeah, we already know what to expect, but, oh, hello. There's a P-switch I can able to activate, which allows me to go into the secret area. So, either way, I think this is our third time experiencing that particular segment right there, if all because of thanks to the forms of NES Remakes 2 Let's Play that we've already did done since during the forms of in 2018 to 2019, because I say that because of that particular massive delay gap, with that particular unfortunate moment that, do you believe that it's been like 5 years ago since our Wii U save data corrupted did somehow almost delete our progress for certain games, like, you know what I'm saying, with New Super Mario Bros. U, with New Super Luigi U DLC included, and on top of that, Super Mario 3D World and Super Mario Maker. And heck, let's not forget ourselves with the forms of Splatoon 1, and even especially noticeable with Super Smash Bros. For the Nintendo Wii U, and Mario and Sonic at the Sochi 2014 Olympic Winter Games, and I think, as far as saying goes, I think that's as far as we can think about. Well, I don't know about the forms of, or maybe that Sonic Lost World was also erased? Well, I don't know about you, because it's been like quite some time since we've last played Sonic Lost World. Oh, and speaking of Sonic the Hedgehog related, that's for those of you who lived in North America, well, happy 30th anniversary of the US version of Sonic CD. Like, gee, I can't even believe it's been about 30 years since the North American version of Sonic CD did came out on a Sega CD. At least as far as what I noticed something like this. Especially because, well, some people still prefers the European and Japanese soundtrack when it comes to Sonic CD itself, which I honestly agree. But aside from all that stuff though, it's just about the fact that how great the North American soundtrack is, at least in my opinion. I mean, I did got most of those soundtracks on the likes of in iTunes recently. Well, specifically with Sonic Boom, the theme song on the North American's opening theme of Sonic CD, which I always attempt to enjoy listening to. And on top of that, with the European and Japanese soundtrack on not only Tidal Tempest level, as well as Stardust Speedway, and even their special stages as a result too, because, oh man, the music is so good. Although I was expecting to be able to download the Quartz Quadrant music, but didn't get around to it, so... But hopefully I might as well do that during that time though, so... Yeah, because of that though, it's just a way of how the fact that it's pretty impressive how certain things is now becoming, or become, 30 years old, well, with 2 games in mind, so... Yeah, but either way, we'll promise you guys we'll be able to mention about more details on other stuff and during in the later, parts of this, especially because that's what I can really say about this, and besides that Mighty is now going to be taking on the next Airship Fortress level, and sure enough, the next Koopaling we're about to face off against is of course Iggy Koopa, because, you know, with that ridiculously long hair on the actual on top of his head or something. Well, you keep thinking about the forms of the design based off modern Mario games nowadays, especially noticeable with, you know what I mean, since the new Super Mario Bros. Wii and onwards, so, yeah, I think I'm also able to keep overly looked on that, so... But, yeah, it looks like we're actually doing not too bad, especially because, well, then again, it's almost like the exactly same formation almost as in the Super Nintendo version for the sake of the forms of certain progressioning for certain worlds alike, so... But, it might be unchanged though when it comes to the later worlds, because just like the forms of Error does it on the Super Nintendo version, that obviously certain later worlds like World 5, 6, 7, and 8, it was able to actually be just one world per video basically, so... yeah, we probably get the gist of it though, especially because we pretty much used to it for this fact. So, and there we go. That basically takes care of everything in terms of Giant Land, but this time on the Game Boy Advance. So, yeah. At least for you, Mighty, because obviously about the fact that, well, you was able to get yourself a special item, so... And yeah, relatively speaking though, I believe we're now onto the halfway point in terms of the main adventure of Super Mario Bros. 3, well at least not counting new forms of World D, and doing at some point in later on throughout the majority of the Let's Play itself, so... Yeah, because, you know, we're now moving on to World 5, which appears to be the sky. So in some cases, you got yourselves another P-Wing. So, yeah, you somehow managed to got 2 P-Wings in this world so far. So with that being said, we got the endings of here, so join us next time for more of Let's Play of Super Mario Advance 4. Super Mario Bros. 3 is that, as we said this before, we're about to be hit on to World 5, known as the Sky. So I'll see you guys on Monday. Later, dudes.